Hello, I am Mr. Mendoza, a second grade teacher at Webb Du Bois Charter Academy with Agape Schools. In this segment of Governing the People, we are going to look at the last unit, last lesson, lesson 5, working together around the world. What are some things nations do to get along with one another? Nations depend on each other for many things. Nations find ways to get along. Everyone has to get along. Doesn't make sense to be enemies with each other. We all need each other to survive. A couple of words that you'll see is treaty, ambassador, and an embassy. We form treaties with other countries to make peace, and we send our ambassadors to the embassy, to our embassies in other countries. Working together around the world, nations have different cultures and different kinds of governments for many reasons. However, they need to get along with one another. For example, one country might grow food that another country does not have. The other country might make computers that the first country wants. Each can give the other nation what it wants. Nations can also help one another in times of trouble. Some sending food. Nations work together to help one another. They send food to each other. They help. It's helping after an earthquake. They also teach children and give medicine. These are just some ways that countries help each other. Sharing cultures and ideas. Nations share parts of their cultures, such as their art, music, and writing, with the rest of the world. Nations also share ideas. Men and women of different countries work together to make new discoveries. Every country is known for music. Specifically on this one, we're going to look at our music from Mexico and the mariachi. Nobody else has a mariachi. A mariachi is or was born in Mexico. Africa, the country of Africa, is known for their dancing. Every country has dancing, but Africa is unique with their dances. Everyone shares the International Space Station. Astronauts from many nations go there. Members and guests of the United Nations speak different languages. Each member wears earphones to hear the words of other members in his or her own language. Keeping the peace. Here's what we're going to read about why countries keep the peace and how we keep the peace. And this is where all the good intra vocabulary comes in, such as treaty, ambassador, and embassy. Sometimes we can figure out the definitions of words just by looking at the word and reading the sentence to understand it. So we read, keeping the peace. Nations of the world do not always agree on things. They talk about their differences and try to reach agreements that are fair. They might write a treaty or a set of rules that nations agree to follow. Peace treaties keep countries around the world from going to war. Sometimes nations use ambassadors to help make agreements between their governments. An ambassador is a person who speaks and acts for his or her government in another country. He or she lives and works in an embassy. There, the United States has ambassadors in embassies all over the world. Many nations have embassies here in the United States. And if we're talking about ambassadors living in the United States, then they are more than likely living on Embassy Row in Washington, D.C., our national capital. World leaders meet to discuss problems. Nations of the world find ways to get along. We have to be able to survive. What are some things nations do to get along with one another? What do people do to get along with one another? What is a treaty? Imagine that you are the leader of a nation. Write ways in which your nation can get along with other nations. What can we do? First of all, we shouldn't be declaring war on each other. Why? Main idea and details. What are some ways nations work together? What are some ways that people work together? Sometimes we have to solve a problem. How? We have to realize what the problem is. Just like with every country, sometimes we have problems. We have to figure it out. Then we have to ask for help if we know that we need it. Like leaders of nations, citizens and communities cooperate or work together to solve problems. A problem is something that is making things difficult. What you need to know, a solution is a way to solve a problem. There are steps you can follow to solve a problem. 1. Name the problem. 2. Gather information. 3. Think about different solutions. 4. Think about consequences. 5. Try a solution. And 6. Think about how well the solution worked. Look at this picture. Look at the picture. Name the problem that needs to be solved. Name that problem. It's a park. What do you see in that park? Make a list of possible solutions. If the problem is that it's a dirty park, how are you going to clean this park up? Choose the solution you think is best. Write a paragraph telling why you think the solution you chose will work. Everyone has a different point of view, and everyone can do something to help the community or the world around them. The Sidewalk Reporter asks, what do you do to get along with your neighbors? I clean up after my dog. That's what Amanda declares. Mr. Kim states, I keep my home and yard neat. Josh, he giggles. I drive slowly and watch for people. He smiles as he says that. Mrs. Avila, I work on the city council. Elena says, I don't litter. I use trash cans in the park. And Yoka, getting along from the past. In 1817, 6-year-old Anyoka began working with her father, Sequoia, to help the people of her community get along. By 1821, they had created an alphabet for the Cherokee people. Ooh. Anyoka and her father decided we need to be able to communicate with each other, so they use this alphabet to help them communicate with each other. It's your turn. Do you do any of the things that these citizens do? If so, which ones? What do you do to get along with your neighbors? What laws do you follow? Let's end with a fable here. The Bundle of Sticks. A fable by Aesop, illustrated by Lawrence Clayett Merle. An old man called his children to give them some advice. In his hands he held a bundle of sticks, thick sticks. The old man said to his eldest child, break the sticks. His son tried and tried, but he could not break the bundle of sticks. Both the daughter and the younger son tried, too, but none of them could do it. Look, said the old man, untie the bundle, and each of you take a stick. When they had done this, the old man called out to them, now break. Each stick was easily broken. See my meaning? He said. What is the meaning? What is the moral of the story? What did the kids learn? Or what was the old man trying to teach the kids? One person couldn't do that whole job of breaking that the big pile of sticks, a thick pile of sticks. But the old man gave sticks to each of the kids, and they were able to do it. So the moral says right there, working together, we are strong. What makes our country strong? Talk to your parents about that. Yerba Buena Gardens. Visitors to San Francisco and the people who live there enjoy visiting Yerba Buena Gardens. This place is more than a garden. There are also theaters, museums, bowling center, playground, an ice skating rink, and much more. There is something for everyone at the Yerba Buena Gardens. What will you see there? Children learn how to make animated videos at the museum. The waterfall is part of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. At the rooftop, children can ride the carousel. There are many kinds of art to see in the San Francisco Museum of modern art. People can enjoy dance, music, and plays at the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts. You can also go to a virtual tour of this place at harcourtschol.com/HSS. That's www.harcourtschool.com/HSS. Here's a little bit of something to think about before we conclude this lesson. Write about it. What is the main idea of the entire unit? Government makes laws to maintain order and help people get along. Copy and fill in the main idea and details chart to show what you learned about what government does. You think the main idea. And he gave you 2 details. All you have to do is write in 1 more detail. A government makes laws that citizens must follow. People who break laws face consequences. These are all details. Give me 1 more detail and give me the main idea, which is right up here. Use these words: citizen, government, law, president, and vote. Read this section and fill in the words. If you need to, you can go to these pages to see the actual definition of these words. So you'd say, my neighbor, Mrs. Arnold, likes to in elections. By voting, she helps choose the people who run our community. This group of people called helps everyone get along. Mrs. Arnold is a good in our community. She follows every rule. I think she could someday be our country's and keep it a good place to live. What kinds of freedoms do Americans have? What kinds of freedoms do we have? What is the job of a judge? What are some ways people in other nations become leaders? How many judges are on the Supreme Court? Who helps make agreements between governments of countries? Think critically about this. Why do you think new laws have to be added to the Constitution? What would happen if there were no consequences for breaking laws in your community? Apply map and globe skills. Look at all this. Think, okay, we have California. But what's this other thing there? This is our state. This is our capital. So we have everything else here. Look at the map legend. It says asterisk little star is a state capital. The line is a border. What is the capital city of New Mexico? You look at New Mexico. Where's New Mexico? Look for it. It's all in capital letters. It says, what is the capital? Oh, there it is. Santa Fe. What states share a border with Washington? You look Washington and think what states share their border. Of what state is Salem the capital? Look for Salem. It's starred. Salem, where is it? It's somewhere on the west coast. What is this? The capital city of Idaho. Idaho is right here. What is the capital of Idaho? Apply participation skills. Read 3. Arturo 9. Meg 6. Who has the least amount of votes? In this tally chart, who has the least amount of votes? How many votes does Meg have? How many votes does Arturo have? Who has the majority of the votes? Here are some other things you can do. You can read Working Together to Save Our Planet. You can try finding these online. We Elect the President, or Leaders for Peace. What would help the citizens of your community stay safe and get along? Write a letter to the mayor about a problem and how you think it should be solved. Something you can also, a project that you can do. Role play how a city council makes laws. Practice presenting opinions. These are some things that you can do. I hope that you enjoyed this section of governing the people for second graders. Make sure that you do the test at the end of this and enjoy.